City Girl's heartwarming act for struggling farmer reveals incredible hidden land legacy. Life-changing journey awaits. Emma stepped out of her car and took a deep breath, the crisp rural air filling her lungs like a long-lost friend. A bittersweet wave of childhood memories crashed over her: colorful sunsets on her grandfather's farm, the laughter of her family echoing across the fields, the simple joy of hard work. Now, as a 28-year-old corporate executive in Chicago, she felt a persistent emptiness gnawing away at her heart. Climbing the corporate ladder had left her feeling hollow, her soul yearning for something deeper. The small town of Maplewood welcomed her with open arms. It was a world apart from the bustling streets of Chicago, where life was fast and faceless. Here, the skies stretched endlessly, and neighbors greeted one another with warm smiles. Yet, the first sign Emma encountered of the town's struggles was hard to ignore. Her senses tingled with the weight of desperation as she learned about corporate land developers snatching up family farms, threatening the very heart of this community. There she met Jake, a rugged farmer with kind eyes, who fought tirelessly to preserve his family's legacy. Their connection was immediate, an emotional anchor amidst the swirling chaos of her thoughts. As Emma found herself drawn to Jake, their late-night talks beneath a canopy of stars sparked something deep within her. He spoke passionately about the land, weaving stories filled with resilience and a shared history that resonated with her longing for belonging. Each tale unveiled the truth of the farmers' lives, an ethos rooted in love, community, and unwavering strength, starkly contrasting the profit-centric world she inhabited. It felt like returning home, but when the developers pushed Jake and his farm to the brink, Emma was jolted into action. That night, with tears brimming in her eyes as she witnessed the pain of an entire community, she made a decision. This wasn't just about saving one farm, it was about standing up for a way of life that she had almost forgotten. The warmth of purpose wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emma rallied the townsfolk, becoming an unexpected beacon of hope. Their shared energy ignited a sense of urgency within her. But as she dove deeper, a shocking revelation struck: a family legacy tied to the land Jake fought to protect emerged from her grandfather's old diary. Each word painted a picture of deep connections and lineage that intertwined with the soil itself. She felt compelled to bridge the chasm between her life and this community. As the rally approached, tension thickened the atmosphere, local media scrutinized their every move. In a moment of vulnerability, Jake poured out his fears, his dreams slipping through his fingers like grains of sand. Emma felt the weight of her unresolved past surging forward, her heart racing at the possibility of loss. Would she find the courage not just to fight corporate giants but to confront her own demons? The answer lingered in the air, heavy with promise and uncertainty, as she prepared to take the first step toward a future entwined with both her dreams and Jake's. Emma stood in a small community hall, the hum of anxious voices swirling around her like a living thing. She felt a knot tightening in her stomach. The rally was only hours away, and anxiety flickered in her chest like a flame threatening to extinguish. Jake stood beside her, his tall, broad frame exuding calmness even as his brow furrowed with worry. The weight of both their hopes rested heavily on their shoulders. One by one, townsfolk entered, filling the room with laughter that belied the seriousness of their situation. Parents held their children's hands tightly, wondering what the future held. Emma gathered her thoughts, glancing at the makeshift stage where she would be speaking soon. It was strange how quickly she had fallen into this role: an advocate, a friend, a voice for the voiceless. She felt raw and real in this moment, a stark contrast to her polished city persona. "Are you ready?" Jake asked, his voice low and steady, cutting through her swirling thoughts. "No," she replied, her honesty spilling out. "What if they don't listen?" "They will. You more than anyone understand what this land means to us. His eyes held hers with a sincerity that made her heart flutter. "Just speak from your heart." She nodded, but the flutter in her chest had turned to dread. How could she convey the depth of her feelings? The connection she felt to this land, this community? It coursed through her like an electric current. Stealing a deep breath, she prepared herself for the moment. Across the room, she caught sight of Mrs. Hargrove, an elderly woman who had cared for Jake since he was young. Emma felt a swell of determination wash over her. She wouldn't let them down. As the event began, Emma watched the crowd swell. News reporters, curious neighbors, even children holding colorful signs saying things like "Save our farms" and "We want Jake" filled the space. Suddenly, she felt the heat of their collective will. When it was time, she walked to the front, her heart pounding like a drum. The lights dimmed slightly, setting an intimate tone. She glanced at Jake, who gave her an encouraging nod, and she started speaking. Her voice wavered but grew stronger as she shared her journey. Her words drew in listeners, painting vivid images of her grandfather's legacy and the rich life of the farmers around her. "Farms are more than dirt and crops," she explained passionately. "They are the heartbeats of our families and communities." Those words hung in the air, igniting a spark in many who listened. Faces brightened with recognition as Emma recounted her grandfather's stories of struggle and perseverance. But as she poured her soul into the speech, the door creaked open. In strode a group of men, suits sharp against the rural backdrop. Emma felt a chill race down her spine. The corporate developers had come. She faltered at the sight, uncertainty creeping back in, testing her resolve. But this wasn't just her fight anymore. Every gaze in the room burned with the same desire to protect their way of life. "Excuse me," one of the men interrupted, his voice smooth as silk but lacking warmth. "We need to talk." Emma's heart raced as the crowd grew tense. She was standing on the precipice of something big, and suddenly, the rally didn't just feel like a local event. It was a war for the soul of this community. And as she caught Jake's unwavering gaze, she felt the burgeoning resolve within her solidify. Bring it on, she thought fiercely, ready to confront whatever was coming next. What new twist awaited her in this fight? Would Emma find her voice unyielding enough to take on the corporate threat looming over Maplewood? A tense silence enveloped the hall as eyes shifted from Emma to the newcomers. The developer's presence loomed large, casting a shadow of uncertainty over what had just begun as a hopeful gathering. The men whispered amongst themselves, their confidence starkly contrasting with the nervous murmurs of the townspeople. "Who are they?" someone whispered from the back, and Emma could feel the fear ripple through the crowd. Her heart pounded harder against her chest, blood rushing in her ears. With newfound determination, Emma stepped forward, the weight of her role pressing down but simultaneously uplifting her. "They might want to silence us," she began, her voice steadying to match the resolve bubbling inside her. "But we can't let that happen. We need to speak for our families. For our farms." The crowd began to stir at the urgency in her tone, heads nodding, fists clenching. Emma had reached them, they felt her passion, her fight. The lead developer, a slick man with thinning hair and a piercing gaze, raised an eyebrow. "I think you misunderstand the situation," he said, his voice smooth and patronizing. "We're here to help you, to bring progress. All this nostalgia is holding you back." "Progress?" Emma winced at his words. Memories of her grandfather teaching her to plant seeds in the rich, dark soil flashed through her mind. The scent of fresh earth, the laughter of friends and family at harvest festivals. They were not just stories. They were life, growth, love. "No," she shot back, her voice rising against the growing tensions. "What you call progress is just a way to strip us of everything that makes this community special. We're fighting for our heritage, our stories." The townsfolk began to clap, louder and louder, feeding off her spirit. She felt the rush of their support, igniting a fire in her belly, grounding her fears. "Do you really think this land is just for sale? Just a piece of dirt to build a shopping center?" Emma pressed, stepping even closer to the men. "We have history here. Families have poured their lives into these fields. We won't let that be erased." Jake joined her at the front, standing stoutly beside her like a beacon of strength. "We're united in this. All of us," he added, gesturing around the room. "What happens today, it's not just about you or me. It's about everyone." The crowd echoed his sentiment, voices rising in a chorus of agreement. "We won't back down." The developer's confident posture wavered for just a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. "We'll see about that," he retorted, his icy tone rendering more like a threat than a statement as he exchanged glances with his companions. As the men turned to leave, Emma felt something shift in the atmosphere. She wasn't just speaking, she was leading. The fight was real, and as the rally surged forward, the hope whispered through their excitement held an unshakable power. "Can we gather more voices?" Emma thought. "More allies?" She took a breath, clutching the paper with notes for her speech tighter. "Let us organize more meetings. Reach out to everyone we know. Allies from nearby towns could join us too." She called out, the energy dancing as people leaned closer, excited discussions bubbling up again, but even as enthusiasm filled the air, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was just beginning. Shadows danced around them, and she was acutely aware that the developers would not rest easily. What else would they attempt next to silence her and the community? Emma steeled herself. The true fight had yet to come, and she was determined to lead the charge, but doubt still nagged at her heart. Was her resolve strong enough to keep everyone united? Emma stood at the forefront, her heart still racing with adrenaline from the confrontation. As the echoes of the crowd's rallying cries faded, a more profound silence settled over the hall. She scanned the faces around her, from the hopeful gleams in her peers' eyes to the tension etched in the lines of the older generation. Each person represented a story, a life tied to this land. "We need to act fast," Jake said, breaking the quiet tension. His brow furrowed in determination. "The more we wait, the more chances they'll have to pull the rug out from under us." "Right." Emma nodded, taking a deep breath to center herself. "Let us plan a town meeting tomorrow. We can gather evidence, maybe even stories from those who have farmed this land for generations. Show them what they're really taking from us." People began murmuring in agreement, their voices weaving through the air like threads binding them closer together. Emma felt the swell of hope. But then, her heart sank. What if the developers were already planning something? Were they silent now in defeat or merely biding their time? The uncertainty clawed at her like a chill wind. As the townsfolk departed the hall, Emma pulled Jake aside. What if they're working behind the scenes to sway public opinion? The fear leaked into her voice despite her effort to sound resolute. Jake placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "If they are, we'll fight back. Knowledge is power, right? Let us use social media. Let us share our stories. Each post, each photo, it will build momentum. People in nearby towns care about what happens here too." "Yes," Emma said, excitement bubbling up. "This could be their chance. If we reach enough people, maybe we can organize a larger rally, get local news involved." "Count me in," Jake replied. "We're in this together." With renewed energy pulsing between them, they began to sketch out a plan, even as the weight of uncertainty loomed large. Emma imagined the stronger voices, the concerned parents and enthusiastic youth, united under banners that declared their love for their land. That night, she couldn't sleep. While others drifted into dreamland, Emma lay wide-eyed and restless. Thoughts of her family's legacy looped through her mind like a persistent melody. Would she be able to protect it? The fragrance of jasmine from the garden rose faintly to her windowsill, the scent bringing back memories of balmy nights spent with her family, laughter mingling with warm breezes. Those evenings had shaped her, forged her love for this place. Just as fatigue began to pull at her eyelids, her phone chimed, pulling her from the brink of sleep. It was a message from Clara, her old friend. "Hey, I heard about the meeting today. I want in." Let us save this land. Emma's heart swelled. Clara's enthusiasm was infectious. She imagined reaching out to friends scattered across the county, activating a network of support. But as she lay back down, the gnawing doubt crept back in. What if their efforts weren't enough? What if the machinations of the developers were too strong? With a sigh, Emma pulled the blanket tighter around her. She was about to drift off when a sharp knock at her door startled her awake. Who could that be at this hour? Emma swung her legs over the side of the bed, and her heart thundered in her chest. She felt the urgency in her bones. What if? She muttered, opening the door slowly. As the door creaked open, she was met not just with the familiar face of Jake, but also surprise and determination etched across his features. You need to see this. Emma's breath caught. See what? He stepped inside, holding something behind his back. What had he uncovered? And what did it mean for their fight? She leaned forward, heart racing with the wild promise of the unknown. What is it, Jake? And as he revealed what he held, every doubt and fear began to fade, replaced with an intense curiosity. For tonight could change everything. Emma's heart raced as Jake unveiled a stack of documents, the corners frayed and well-worn. His hands trembled slightly, more from overwhelming urgency than fear. I found these in the library archives. They're property records, land deeds from the last century. And look at this, he spread a faded map across the small desk in her room, revealing familiar borders, names, and sketches. Emma leaned in, eyes wide. The names were familiar. They belonged to families she grew up around, those who had toiled endlessly on this land, names like her grandfather's. She felt a surge of hope, like the first light of dawn breaking across a darkened sky. These could tell our story. If we can prove the historical value of this land, we could sway public opinion for sure. Exactly, Jake exclaimed, enthusiasm lighting his features. These documents show the depth of our community's roots. It's not just land, it's history. If we can get this information out there, we may catch their plans off guard. Emma grabbed a pen and started jotting down a plan. We'll need to digitize these documents, share them on social media, and prepare them for our town meeting. Everyone needs to see this. Let us turn up the heat, Jake added, excitement building in his voice. We can create a hashtag. Something catchy that captures the essence of our fight. As they brainstormed, ideas flowed like water from a spring. Vivid images of banners, flash mobs, and TikTok videos filled Emma's mind. Each step would spread their story further, ignite conversations, and rally more support. Just as they began discussing designs for the banners, Emma's phone buzzed again. It was Clara. I talked to my dad. He knows some folks at the local newspaper. They could help us get our story out. I can meet you guys tomorrow. Emma felt her pulse quicken. That's perfect. Every connection counts. Let us build a coalition. She looked at Jake, his expression mirrored her own determination. Tomorrow, then. But we can't let this distract us. We have to keep pushing forward with our plan, Jake said, his mind racing ahead. Yes, we'll start with the digital campaign and work into the more public actions close to the meeting, Emma said, her thoughts solidifying. This has to be an action-packed week. They spent the next couple of hours mapping out every detail, the energy in the small room palpable. They sketched ideas for videos, wrote down inspiring messages, and even planned for Clara's dad to help secure a meeting with the newspaper. As the clock ticked past midnight, the weight of exhaustion began to settle on Emma's eyelids. But a feeling of purpose kept her awake. Their community's future lay in their hands. Could they really make a difference? As they gathered their things to leave, Jake's phone beeped with an incoming message. A puzzled expression crossed his face as he read it, his finger hovering over the screen. What is it? Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake looked up, his face a canvas of confusion and concern. It's from Clara. She says someone's been spotted at the old Miller farm. The developers are here, and they're not just scouting anymore, they're digging. Emma's stomach dropped. What does that mean? That's our land they're touching. They're moving faster than we thought, Jake replied, the urgency returning tenfold. Panic surged in Emma's chest. They needed to act now. Let us go, Jake. We have to see for ourselves. It's time to confront this. The two dashed out the door, hearts pounding and resolve solidified. Emma knew this was the moment they'd been preparing for, and she hoped that the strength of their community would match the resolve in her heart. What they found at the Miller farm would change everything. As Emma and Jake sprinted down the gravel path leading to the Miller farm, the night air was thick with an impending storm. Emma's mind raced faster than her feet. They couldn't let the developers get a foothold here, not without a fight. She felt a tight knot forming in her stomach, a mix of fear and fury coursing through her. This was more than land, they were encroaching on a legacy, her community's heart. The headlights of Jake's car cut through the darkness as they hopped in, the gravel crunching beneath their tires as he sped towards the site. What are we even going to say when we get there? Jake asked, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Emma shook her head, her resolve hardening. We tell them to stop. We can't let this happen without a voice. She had seen the courage it took for her grandfather to speak up against injustice, and she felt that same fire igniting within her. As they pulled up to the Miller farm, her heart sank. Floodlights lit up a group of men with heavy machinery, digging into the ground as if it were theirs to take. She could hardly believe her eyes. This was happening right before them. The space between each beep of machinery felt like a strike against everything they stood for. We're too late. She gasped. No, Jake said firmly, his voice steadying her racing thoughts. We're not late, we've just arrived. Let us show them we're not backing down. He opened the car door, and for a moment, Emma hesitated. Could their voices really matter? But then she thought of Clara's smiling face, of all the families who believed in their fight, and she stepped out into the light. They approached the scene, heartbeats thundering like war drums. One of the workers turned, eyeing them with a bemused scoff, his helmet flashing in the harsh light. You kids here to play cops and robbers, he jeered. This land doesn't belong to you. Emma shouted, her voice ringing out, surprising even herself. Stop what you're doing. You need to leave. Laughter erupted from some of the workers, a cruel sound punctuated by the clanking of machinery. But Jake stepped beside her, standing resolutely. You can't just come in here and destroy a community's heritage. We'll take legal action. We'll mobilize everyone to stop you. A murmur of surprise rippled through the group, and Emma felt an unexpected rush of empowerment surge through her. They had every right to be there to protect their home. Suddenly, one of the men kept pace with them, stepping forward. You think you can just rally this town? You're barking up the wrong tree, kids. We will, Emma insisted, her voice cracking with emotion. This land is filled with history, with stories. You don't know what you're digging up. Yeah, right, he scoffed. You're just kids afraid of change. That ignited her. Change. This isn't change. This is theft. We're not afraid of change, we're afraid of losing everything. The man paused, caught off guard, and Emma recognized the slight shift in his expression. A flicker of consideration, however brief, gave her hope. Jake nudged her arm, his eyes wide as he pointed towards the entrance of the farm. Look, Emma. A small crowd had begun to gather just beyond the lights. A few neighbors, Clara's father among them, standing armed with cell phones and determination. The sight of them filled Emma with a fierce renewal. We're not alone, she whispered, her heart swelling. Together, they could make a difference. Just then, the worker who had scoffed stepped back, recognizing their united front. Suddenly, the sound of sirens echoed in the distance, rapidly approaching. Looks like you're about to have company, he spat before turning to bolt toward the machinery. Behind them, the cops arrived, lights flashing, ready to uncover the uproar brewing in the night. As the officers exited their vehicles, Emma felt a rush of adrenaline. Their confrontation had caught the attention of those who made the rules. There was still so much to fight for, still so much to uncover. But as the officers stepped in, Emma couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this was only the beginning. What if the developers had deeper plans, connections that ran beyond the farm? The thought made her stomach twist again. With the weight of uncertainty heavy on her shoulders, Emma readied herself for whatever came next. The truth was lurking, waiting to be discovered, and she was determined to find it. The officers moved in with a calm authority, but Emma's heartbeat quickened. She could see their expressions, confusion layered with concern, trying to piece together the situation unfolding before them. The men operating the machinery had scattered, and the fear emanating from those remaining was palpable. "Who called us?" one officer asked, stepping forward. His uniform seemed to weigh heavily on him, like it carried all the expectations of the law. Emma took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "We did," she said, raising a hand. "We're trying to protect this land. The developers are trying to tear it down without any rights." The crowd, emboldened by Emma's defiance, murmured in agreement, and she felt a wave of support wash over her. Clara's father stepped beside them, his face tight with determination. "They can't just come in and bulldoze our history. This is our home, these fields, the trees, everything has a story." The officer nodded, glancing at his partner, who was now taking notes. "Can you prove this?" "We have records," Jake interjected, his voice steady. "Not just sentimental value. This land was owned by the original settlers of this town. It's part of our heritage." The officer, mid-30s with kind eyes, tempered his tone. "Look, kids, I understand your passion, but without proper documentation, there isn't much we can do at this moment." Emma felt her hope teetering. What if their fight could unravel in an instant? But then, from the back of the crowd, Clara's mother stepped forward. She was a formidable woman with years of community spirit behind her. "We've fought this battle for a long time. We have maps, interviews from our elders, everything shows our connection to this land." The officer gave a slight nod, acknowledging her determination. It stirred something deep within Emma, a realization that this was about more than just legalities. Their fight symbolized something bigger: community, history, legacy. It was personal. As the officers began asking for details, Emma felt the spirit of her grandfather beside her. She remembered his words about standing firm for what mattered. It pushed her to take another step forward. "Even if it's just paper, it's our paper," she said, her voice steadying. "That paper tells about families who've held these roots so tightly. You can't ignore the legacy just because it's not paved in gold." The initial attitudes of the officers began to shift. They seemed to recognize the heart behind Emma's words. Suddenly, a commotion erupted from behind. One of the developers, a man wrapped in arrogance and greed, had returned, flanked by intimidating thugs. "What's this?" he growled, his gaze sweeping over the scene defiantly. "You think you can stop progress? You kids have no idea how this works." Emma felt the knot in her stomach twist tighter. But they weren't just kids anymore. They had a whole community standing strong against him. She thought of Clara and the future they all wanted. Emotions bubbled to the surface, fueling her voice louder than before. "You don't know us. You don't know this place. We won't back down because we care more about these fields than your profits." The tension surged in the air, palpable and electrifying. The crowd closed in together, a wall of resistance and resolve. Emma glanced at Jake, who was standing tall beside her, eyes fierce. Together, they were more than they ever imagined they could be. As the developer opened his mouth to retaliate, Emma wondered how far their unity could reach. Would this confrontation stir real change, or would it create more walls? Then, unexpectedly, Clara's mother turned, looking at Emma with fierce pride and an unexpected smile. "You've done something great tonight, Emma. The land might just speak back to you." Emma's heart raced. What did that mean? The storm was brewing and so was their fight. But now, a new question loomed large in Emma's mind: what truths about this land's past were yet to be uncovered? As the developer's laughter faded into the night, Emma's heart sank, weighed down by uncertainty. She stood wide-eyed, absorbing Clara's mother's quiet encouragement. The land might just speak back to you. The statement echoed in her mind, spinning with possibility and hope, but before she could dissect its meaning, the developer raised a hand to silence the crowd, his thugs closing in like dark clouds. You really think you're going to stop this? We've provided a better future for you all. His smirk dripped with disdain. You should thank us. The jeers from the crowd ignited Emma's anger, and she stepped closer to the front, gritting her teeth. Thank you for what? For stealing our stories. Our futures. Her voice rang out stronger than she expected, ricocheting off the silent trees. The energy shifted, the crowd buzzed with anticipation. All right then, the developer snapped, visibly reddening. You want a fight? I'll give you a fight. But don't cry when your homes are turned to rubble. The officers exchanged looks, their earlier authority now infused with uncertainty. Emma caught the eye of Jake. His jaw was set, determination radiating from him. She understood, whatever happened next would not be a simple matter of legality. It was life or death for their community. Then, Clara's mother stepped forward again, her voice strong and steady. This land is rich with history. We know it, we feel it. We will not let it disappear because a man thinks he holds the key to progress. The crowd erupted in support, shouts mixing with the rustling wind. Emma could feel their collective heartbeat, a pulse of rebellion. The officers stood back, momentarily stunned by the solidarity on display. Just when things seemed to be tipping, one of the thugs lunged forward, attempting to intimidate the group with his hulking frame. Clara's father, unwavering, put himself between the thug and the crowd. You're the ones trespassing here. He shouted, emboldening the others. Emma thought of all the families that had walked these lands, the laughter of children playing in the fields, their parents cultivating crops, daughters and sons telling stories under the sprawling trees. This wasn't just land, it was a tapestry woven with countless lives. Something shifted inside Emma. We know the past, and will unearth every secret the land holds, she said, her voice steady. We'll fight for every inch of this place. The developer crossed his arms, unimpressed. But she noticed a flicker. Was it concern? His arrogance appeared less solid under the growing weight of resolve surrounding them. The officers began pulling out their phones to photograph the gathering. Perhaps, they sensed something monumental unfolding. In that moment, hope flickered in Emma's heart. Could we really be making a difference? With renewed fervor, the crowd began chanting, "Our land. Our future." Their voices melded into a powerful wave, crashing against the tried and true opposition that had sought to erase their existence. Emma turned to Clara. We must dig deeper. We can't let them bulldoze our history. What if we found something, anything that proves who we are? Clara nodded emphatically. My grandfather kept old journals about our ancestors. They might have clues about the land. Just then, the developer scoffed. You think your old stories will matter? Emma felt a surge of fierce defiance and rallied everyone's attention. Yes. Because those stories matter. Little did she know, as they turned their focus to their heritage, another deeper truth lay buried in the land, waiting to be uncovered, a secret that would shake foundations and unearth the strength of their resolve. As the clamor of the crowd drowned out the developer's protests, Emma knew the battle was just beginning. What treasures and trials would they face in digging up their past? Would they be ready for what the land could reveal? Emma stood at the edge of the crowd, her heart racing as the chants enveloped her. Our land. Our future. Each word felt like a drumbeat urging her forward. Clara beside her was full of adrenaline, her excitement mingling with fear. They both knew that digging into their past was no small task, yet something deep within Emma ignited a fire she didn't know she had. Come on. Clara shouted, tugging at Emma's arm. Let's get to the library. We need to start now. The library was a stone's throw away, a weathered building that stood strong against the storms of time. It had been a refuge for the townsfolk, a place for gathering stories and dreams. As they dashed down the path, Emma felt the weight of the developer's threat on her shoulders but pushed it aside. The urgency to uncover their heritage propelled them. When they reached the library, the door creaked open, revealing rows of books that smelled of dust and old paper. They hurried to the back where Clara's grandfather's journals lay, nestled among the faded texts. Emma's fingers trembled as she gently opened the first journal, the pages delicate under her touch. Look at this. Clara pointed to a section filled with her grandfather's neat handwriting. He wrote about our ancestors planting crops, building the homes still standing today. These stories, they're part of us. With every word they read, Emma felt the history seep into her bones. The struggles, the laughter, the community alive and thriving, it was all there in black and white. A sense of purpose surged through her. This is it. This is what we need to show the developer, she exclaimed. As night fell, they immersed themselves in the stories, unearthing tales of resilience. Clara's grandfather had documented legends of old, whispers of rituals that celebrated the land. Each tale was a thread, weaving a richer tapestry of who they were. Emma realized that all this time, she had focused on the present and future, but she now understood that the past held equal significance. We can't let them erase this, Emma said, her voice softer now, but filled with resolve. We need to organize a meeting. Share these stories with everyone. If we come together, we can show them this land isn't just a plot for development. It's our heart. Clara nodded, her eyes big with determination. Let us get everyone involved. We can host a gathering, share these stories, and connect everyone's memories to this land. The next day, Emma felt invigorated as she walked through town, her voice louder, full of intention. Families needed to hear what she and Clara had discovered. They set up flyers at the local diner and community board, feeling anticipation build like a rising tide. As more townspeople began to join, old friends reuniting over nostalgia, Emma realized her father's age-old warnings rang true: when a community stood together, they became unbreakable. Yet somewhere in the back of her mind, a lingering thought nudged at her. Would pulling all these memories together be enough? The day of the gathering arrived, and the community center was buzzing with energy. Everyone carried stories to share, light shining from their faces. Emma felt alive, but that shadow of worry crept back. When she took the stage and looked at their eager faces, she realized just how much was at stake. She inhaled deeply and began, "This land is filled with our history. We belong here, and together, we can ensure it remains ours." But as she spoke, she noticed a familiar figure lingering near the door: the developer. A sudden chill pierced her confidence. His expression was unreadable, waiting, watching. Did he sense the deep-seated legacy they were fighting for? Or was he prepared to strike even harder? Emma's heart thudded, a rush of fear and anticipation swirling within her. As she finished her speech, the crowd erupted with applause and support, drowning out the maybes and fears. But deep down, Emma knew this battle was far from over. What would the developer's next move be? Unbeknownst to her, the real fight had just begun. Emma took a deep breath, standing on the stage as the applause faded into an eager silence. The supportive faces of her neighbors filled her with warmth, yet the shadow of the developer lingered, a persistent reminder that they were at the center of a storm. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice strong despite the flutter of fear in her chest. "Today, we gather not just to protect our land, but to honor the stories that shape us, stories of courage, of hard work, of community. This land is our legacy." As she spoke, her heart raced, fueled by the collective memories bubbling around her. Clara stood off to the side, her beaming smile giving Emma the strength to continue. "Each family has a history intertwined with this earth. Together, we can ensure that history is told, celebrated, and preserved." But just as she felt herself gaining momentum, the door creaked open, drawing startled gasps. The developer strolled in, flanked by men clad in dark suits. Gasps swept through the crowd like wildfire, but Emma held firm, reminding herself of the strength woven through them all. "Really?" the developer said with an amused smirk, his voice slicing through the haven they had created. "You think a story will protect this land? Sentiment doesn't pay bills." "Sentiment is what makes us human," Emma replied, heat rising in her cheeks. "It binds us. It motivates us to stand up for what we believe." The crowd nodded vigorously, their support surging her confidence. "If we come together and stand unified, they can't tear us apart. We've been digging into our stories, our histories, to share with you what this land truly means." "You're wasting your time," he scoffed, glancing around the room. "The future waits for no one." Emma felt the flames of defiance ignite within her. "No," she corrected, her tone unwavering, "the past shapes our future. And together, we will show you what we stand for." The crowd erupted in applause, and she could feel their unity pulse like an electric current. "Fine," he growled, taking a step forward, the edges of his facade slipping. "We'll see how this shakes out." With that, he turned on his heel and stormed out, his parting words still reverberating in the room. "Stick together. We won't be bullied out of our home." Someone shouted, and the rabble turned into thunderous consensus, voices rising against the injustice. That night, Emma couldn't shake the feeling of urgency. They had to act fast. Following some intense discussions, they organized a public meeting to rally support and gather more evidence. A flood of letters, testimonies, and legal documents began piling up as Clara led the charge to mobilize the community. Days turned into a whirlwind of excitement and anticipation. As Emma watched families share stories, her spirit soared. Everyday conversations buzzed with hope and determination, fueling their fight. On the day of the public meeting, the community hall overflowed with townsfolk, journalists, and even neighboring families who had been touched by Emma's efforts on social media. This wasn't just about Maplewood, it had become a local call to arms. When Emma stood to speak, her heart hammered in her chest. "Thank you all for being here. Today, we join forces to fight for our legacy. We'll share our stories, our histories, and the truth of what this land means. Together, we can't be stopped." As testimonies flowed from neighbors recalling their memories intertwined with the land, Emma felt the bond of community wrap around her like a warm embrace. Then, against all odds, Clara's grandfather stood up, fragility replaced with fierce pride. "We have fought for this land, and we will continue. Let the stories of our families echo in every corner, reminding the world this is not just land, it is our home, our heart." The crowd erupted, cheers filling the hall like fireworks, vibrant and alive. After a moment of silence, Emma spoke again, breathing deeply, "I believe we have power. They may have the money, but we have history. We have heart. We are family." And as the cheers grew louder, she noticed the developer's presence at the back of the room, watching, his confidence cracking under the camaraderie and unity filling the hall. Days later, a letter arrived. Legal action had begun. The community united, showing up at court in droves, ready to make their stand. As Emma gazed at the sea of hopeful faces, she felt their shared strength empower her. "This is for our families, for our future." Together, they stood not just against a corporate machine but a fight for their roots and a collective legacy. Finally, after weeks of tireless effort, the judge ruled in favor of the community. Applause erupted throughout the court, emotions crashing wave after wave. Emma clutched Jake's hand, tears streaming down her face as her heart soared. She had discovered the meaning of home, the warmth of community, and the unbreakable bonds that unite them all. With the victory came renewed promise, a fresh determination to revitalize their land, turning it into a thriving hub for all families in Maplewood. As the revitalization began, Emma and the townspeople transformed their legacy into a thriving future, empowering each other every step of the way. Emma stepped outside, the sun kissing her face as she soaked in the tranquility of the farm, the field stretching out, alive with possibility, as the laughter of children rang in the air. Home, she thought. This was where she belonged. The journey had brought her back to herself, and now, with Jake by her side, they were ready to face whatever came next together. Her heart filled with joy, she knew one final truth: they had created a legacy worth fighting for, and together, they would weave their history anew. Don't wait another second. You need to subscribe now. Hit that button and ring the bell to join the fight for more incredible stories. Leave a like, it truly helps the algorithm and shows your support for the channel. And don't forget to comment below with your thoughts on this amazing transformation. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this power of community in action. Your support is everything. Let us keep the movement alive.